Welcome, 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 everybody. Week 1 is in the books, and we've got our first three-person podcast of the season. I'm your host, Sean Fitzgerald. With me, my partner in crime, Jerry LeBlanc. And joining us is our man from the north, the king of the north, James Waller. We are talking Week 1 recaps. I think this might have been the earliest trade in league history, which we'll get to. I think it was. Someone in the chat, if you know better, please correct me. I couldn't go on the ESPN. I tried earlier today to go on the ESPN page and look at that. Couldn't get information on it. So we'll do the digging on it if someone wants to. But we've got waiver wires to talk about. Not huge bids, but a couple bids on big players, a couple snipes here or there. And we've got Week 2 predictions and injuries playing a role already in the early season. So yeah, let's get right into the Week 1 matchups. And as is tradition, starting with the Commissioner's matchup, I am pretty thrilled that I called my win against Window. Olave had a bad day. Aside from, and Kittle was meh, but aside from that, and Jonathan Taylor was obviously disappointing for Jonathan Taylor, but across the board, I'm thrilled with some of the guys I had question marks about. James Conner putting up 17, Chris Godwin putting up 18. Dak was a little bit concerning, but then Derek Carr put up 21 on my bench, so against a really, really bad Panthers team. I say as I have 3 Panthers running backs. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Dak, I wouldn't be concerned about Dak. If you actually watch that game got really far away from Cleveland really quickly. And so I think in a more competitive game, Dak is going to put up numbers in the third and fourth quarter where it just wasn't required of him and against Cleveland. So I wouldn't be worried about Dak at all. Your quarterbacks are set.
Well, and I mean, Lamar Jackson was a little bit concerning out of the gate. Didn't really light the world on fire. But then the rushing, I mean, again, I've referred to the rushing quarterbacks before as the contra code of fantasy football. And certainly was true for Lamar Jackson rushing for over 100 yards in that opening kickoff game. So,
yeah, I think your running backs, I think, are going to be flipped. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to do better. James Conner, probably not as good as you saw from him on this particular occasion. But, yeah. I think you just had a classic good week. Things just happened for you. And on the other end, I think Window just had a classically bad week. I mean, Pat Mahomes, who expects 14 points from him?
Yeah, Jerry, I want to get your take on this because I think, did you have Window in your top 3? Or
I had Window in my top 3. I had him winning this week. I think this is a lot less about your team and just Window's team underperforming. Kind of what James just said about Dak. Patrick Mahomes didn't have to do anything more than he did, and he just kind of had an underwhelming day. Derrick Henry scored a touchdown on the first Ravens drive, and he ended with 10 points somehow.
Didn't do it. After that.
Just mind-boggling. How do you get 6 points in your first drive? Bare minimum 6 points in your first drive, and you end up with 10.5. ETN fumbles as he's going into the end zone. That's an 8-point swing. If I was Window, I'd be really, really concerned about both Devontae Adams and Will Levis.
Yeah.
What did I say? What did I say? I said from week 1.
I mean, I wasn't high on Will Levis. Don't get me wrong. Window left a lot of points on his bench. If Window knew ahead of time, and if I knew ahead of time, Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to play. I think he starts Jordan Mason.
So I
don't know. I don't think that he starts Xavier Worthy ahead of time, but Xavier Worthy looks like a fucking star that Window is going to start moving forward.
And I have something to reveal really quick because this is something that very few. I think maybe less than half the league knew about. There was a secret slap bet that was forged at the draft.
What are you, 6?
Secret slap bet.
A secret slap bet. And I believe, if memory serves, it was with myself and Jason Smith. It was a slap bet that we could not reveal to the league until after this week because I made a slap bet with Jason Smith, I believe it was, that Window would start one quarterback this week and would not start a second quarterback at the super flex. Because I looked at this roster and said, why would you start Will Levis and Bo Nix? I feel like you have more talented players on your... Now, to be fair, I was thinking more Devin Singletary, Cortland Sutton, maybe Xavier Worthy. I was not thinking Jordan Mason 21 points, but obviously that was a virtue of CMC's injury. But I lost that slap bet. But my point has been made because I said in the week 1 pod, Jason McMillan was there. He said in the chat. And Alex Burchak witnessed it as well, both of whom were in the chat.
This is starting to seem less and less like a secret.
Well, it was a mild secret. Like half the league didn't know about it. We couldn't reveal it because it might shape what Window decided to do. So we couldn't bring it up until now. But I've lost that slap bet, I'm almost kind of satisfied that my point has been made that had he started, let's say, Xavier Worthy at that position, it doesn't change the result, but it makes it more competitive for sure.
But he was never starting Xavier Worthy over a quarterback. It would make more sense if it was
Sutton or Singletary, maybe Lockett, maybe.
Even then, no. Like I don't think he was ever starting not a quarterback in that spot. But looking at the rest of his team.
This kind of does raise. Was Will Levis though? You look at Worthy or Singletary or Sutton or definitely Mason if he was aware that CMAC wasn't playing.
Yeah, no, the 49ers didn't cheat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If the 49ers didn't misreport the injury report, then I think it's reasonable to start using people, especially as deep as our quarterbacks are with the Superflex spot, to use somebody other than a quarterback, especially when you're rolling Bo Nix or Will Levis out there.
Jerry is going to go to war with the 49ers after tonight. Yes, though, Windows.
If me and Kyle Shanahan ever end up in the same room together, I might try to shiv him.
Yes, Window, to answer your question, you did get me slapped. But again, I'm proved my point. We can move on to the second matchup, but I agree with your assessment, Jerry, that this was more about Windows team underperforming than my team overperforming, but I'm just glad that my guys...
Yeah, you were within 2 points of your projection. Window finished 30 points below his, or 25, I guess.
It's just, what I was concerned about is I didn't draft wide receiver until round, 4? And so, the 4-5 turn. And so I was concerned. I did this last year where I waited on wide receivers, and it bit me in the ass because none of my receivers kind of panned out. I'm just glad that I have some production out of those receivers.
I think Window did the smart move after the game, though, trading. Well, I guess this a little ahead of the ball, but trading Cortland Sutton for Charbonnet. But we can get there at the trade.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let's go to our second matchup of the week. The Scotty, the defending champ, falls in week 1 to Brad. Brad gets his revenge from last season's title loss, and beats the defending champ, 123 to 107. I said Scotty in my bottom 3. Everything's coming up Sean right now. Everything's coming up Millhouse.
I like the fact that Brad was able to do this with not big production from some of his key players. Like he had a good spread across the board, which you like to see for consistency purpose. Except, Jordan Love is maybe not that consistent right now.
I mean, Jordan Love put up 16 points. It's not terrible. He got hurt. We'll see what he's going to have to do moving forward from that. Brad's obviously got a big question mark in his second quarterback spot now.
Mm-hmm.
But what saved him? Is going to save him?
Josh Allen.
Yep. 31 and what I like.
Josh Allen falling to 6, like you said on week 1 pod.
Touchdown regression just not happening. Like he got 15 touchdowns last year, and he opens up this year with two rushing touchdowns. If he's just going to get you a rushing touchdown every week, your floor is just so high.
Yep.
And I don't think that stops next week against Miami. This is a tight game, which gave him the opportunity. But Miami is going to be a tight game as well.
He traditionally, I hate Josh Allen.
He puts up 350 yards a game against Miami.
Yeah, there's a reason I didn't draft him. It's because I hate the guy because he dominates my Dolphins every time he plays them. But I agree with you. I also think Brad was very smart to grab Achane and Mostert. Mostert obviously getting hurt
I
week
would
1.
fundamentally disagree.
Really?
No, like this is the exact argument of why he shouldn't have drafted both. He drafted A-Chain first, and he gave you 19 and a half points. And then he used, I don't know what round pick on Mostert, but I'm sure it was too early, on a second running back from the same team. And what did he do? 2.9 points, and then he gets hurt.
But that's so
Like,
I
I
wasn't
get it. If one's gonna get hurt no matter what, then it's good to have both. But like Mostert's always hurt.
in this.
He's been hurt like every year of his career.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
In this
he's
situation,
glass
you had-
cannon.
in this situation, you had two running backs, both of whom had Raheem Mostert stayed healthy almost all of last season. Achane had injury issues, but Mostert has traditionally been the more injured player. So you have two players with some injury concerns, the durability concerns. I'm not advocating starting both week in week out. That's a dumb strategy because then you're limiting your ceiling. But what I'm saying is having both is smart, and the reason why is because now with Mostert out, they're going to likely lean heavy on Achane with a little bit of Jeff Wilson, a little bit of maybe Jalen Wright mixed in. But Achane's value now goes up.
And on top of that, Brad got another stroke like that. Tony Pollard's the clear number one in Tennessee now, so he's not going to be sore for that spot in his flex. He's already got Pollard to squeeze right in there.
The concern Brad has to have is I think James, you said this early on that it was like, oh yeah, Brad, it's great that he won because some of his players underperformed. To Jerry's point in the first matchup with Window, I would have concerns with some of those players underperforming. Zamir White looked like the second best running back on the field. It looked like Alex Madison might be more heavily involved with the Raiders than we originally thought. Mostert, yes, there was the injury, but he wasn't really getting many carries. Miami wasn't effective at running the ball, and two of their 5 offensive linemen last season did not return. Does that play a role in Mostert's efficiency? The Love injury obviously hurts his team. And by the way, he's got the Dolphins defense. Unless he changes that, they're playing against the Bills. So the value he gets from Josh Allen is going to be offset somewhat by what he's, the Dolphins D in week 2. So I've got some short-term concerns with Brad's team. But winning's all that matters.
On Scott's side, again, it's the same kind of thing. He's got decent production, except the Browns D that really sunk him a little bit.
Man, anytime you have somebody go negative, it's not a positive. But I really think I don't expect DK Metcalf to go that low every single time. I don't expect Dalton Kincaid to put up 1.5 points. It's just
Scotty's numbers weren't that bad, honestly.
No, Anthony Richardson did great. Jaden Daniels,
I think that's exactly. I think in a loss, he gets 28 out of Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels Washington didn't look great. And again, Jaden Daniels might also just benefit from the rushing thing. We've already kind of talked about this, but he got, I don't know, did he only get 1 rushing touchdown, or did he have 2?
I don't know. I don't remember. Let's see.
I can look it up.
He had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks is just it helps so much.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole premise behind Anthony Richardson. Because
I get it.
He was the perfect fantasy performance because he could not hit a throw under 5 yards. So he either
wildly inaccurate, but he's got fucking cannon
40 yards down the field. I think great. Correct
me if I'm wrong, but I think the stat was he threw for 250 passing yards and he completed 10 passes. It was some absurd stat like that.
9 passes. 9 passes.
9, and he had 200 and something passing yards.
In case you're wondering, the average per play was, I think, 11.2 if my math checks out.
And if he was taking the same hits that got him injured last season. So if he doesn't get injured again, that'll stay up. His accuracy's not getting any better. So
sorry, I was wrong. It was 23.5. Oh, man. 23.5 yards of completion. Windows suggests that Scott should trade one of his quarterbacks. I would disagree.
Hey, Window, how about you trade me fucking Jordan Mason last week?
Honestly, if I
that
was
would've
him,
been
I
nice.
might put Gino. I might put Gino on the block because you're starting Jaden and Anthony unless they get injured
You're
every
not.
week.
I mean, what does Scott need though? Maybe a wide receiver. Maybe he packages like one wide receiver with.
Honestly, right now he needs a fucking tight end. Like, I expect Dalton Kincaid to do better, but like
Yeah,
that was the biggest deficiency. Like, how is it in a situation in a close game for Buffalo that Dalton Kincaid gets, what was it, 2 targets, 3 targets?
Well,
Like,
tight ends were bad across the board this week though. Like Kelsey, Mark Andrews, unless you started Isaiah Likely,
oh, I picked him up.
yeah, we'll get to that. But I'm actually curious for week 1. I want to see if I can find out. Which, let me see, Pro Team Buffalo. I'm trying to find out of the
it's
Buffalo
still,
wide receivers how many receptions each of them had, right? And how many targets. Like someone can look up Kincaid.
He was really spreading the ball around.
Like, yeah, 5 targets.
I can tell you that for sure. He he really spread the ball out.
5 targets
this is the tough
for
part.
Shakir. 3 targets for. I'm sorry, 3 targets for Shakir. 5 targets for Keon Coleman. 2 targets for Curtis Samuel. Did Matt Collins have 2 targets for Matt Collins? He was really spreading the ball out.
It's tough to judge what usage is going to be going forward in a season based on week 1. This is always the problem with analyzing on week 1 because you don't have enough data points, right? You don't know what the trend is for all these players. Like maybe he spread out for this game because that was a game plan. Same thing for the usage for a lot of these guys like Zamir White or Dalton Kincaid. That's not necessarily what the rest of the season is going to look like. It's just hard to tell based on a single game and anything that can happen in that context.
But for wide receivers and tight ends, target share matters, right? Dalton Kincaid had 2 targets. I just looked it up. Like, that is certainly a yellow flag. That is a canary in a coal mine if it continues. But yeah, I think we digested this one a good bit. Unless anyone has anything else to say on this one, we'll do the third matchup. Next up, James, you want to talk about your win?
Highest scoring team of the week, coming from being ranked in the bottom 3 of you guys. Look, my Baker, he did it for me. Him and Mike Evans, who apparently is not washed up yet.
That Tampa Bay stack.
But Brian Robinson got great usage. I didn't get anything out of Johnson and Kelsey, which, considering the points I put up, I feel great about. Same thing for Jared Goff. Look at my bench as well. McConkley seems like he has something with Justin Herbert. Zeke looked fine in Dallas. So he's the running back 1 there, even though he didn't put up.
Out here mispronouncing the guy's name too.
McConkley.
McConkley?
Is it
McConkley? I see McConkley. And then
put some respect on lad's name.
Brian
He's
Thomas.
A good lad.
He looked great in Jacksonville. You can speak to that because you're a Jackson fan.
He looked all right. Don't get me wrong, but like, again, it's super touchdown dependent. He had 4 catches for like 45 yards. Like, you get in the end zone, obviously that cures all. But like, I don't feel great about your bench. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you had people underperform in the people that you started. Like, you weren't expecting Travis Kelce to get you less than 5. Deontay Johnson less than 3. The Jets defense goes negative. Like, no, like you could have put up more points this week, but I also just don't feel super great about your bench moving forward either. So I'm kind of split on how your team did this week.
I'm less concerned. I mean, I think McConkey is a little bit of a question mark with the Chargers trying to be more running oriented. I think Zeke doesn't have a very high ceiling necessarily. Thomas is kind of fine. He went against a tough Miami secondary and like I said, touchdowns are key. But overall, I think James is kind of a middle. The way I see your team, James is kind of middle. I don't know. I don't think I had you top 3. I think I had you
nobody had me top 3.
So kind of what we talked about earlier, though. Like, as much as like we're sitting here talking about James' team, like I think this is a lot more about the deficiencies of McMillan's team.
Yeah.
Like,
again, did score the most points in the league this season, this week. So I'm going to stand up for
Which
that.
is so far this season.
No, that's fine. And I'm just saying, like, I have a bigger thing with.
It's
like,
also
don't get me wrong. You put up 135 points.
It's also by 5, so let's slow your roll on the most points in the league. Like, calm down there, guy.
Yeah, like I said, I think the bigger thing is like McMillan was one of 2 teams to go below 100 here.
Yeah.
And the concern with his is that Mark Andrews does not look like the number 1 tight end there.
He was double. Hold on. So
he was fucking playing left tackle.
He was
blocking.
I think he was, but I think he was also double teamed a good bit when he did run routes. Puka is what you were getting to, and Puka is the big concern.
Honestly, I'm not concerned about Mark Andrews at all. I think Sean's right. He was double teamed. Kansas City's traditionally schemed. Yeah. Mark Andrews. Kansas City always takes him out of the game. They don't want to lose to Mark.
He did block a good bit.
If by taking him out of the game you mean that the Chiefs literally lined him up at left tackle and didn't have him run routes, then yes, that's exactly the Chiefs took him out of
the Ravens.
The Ravens lined him up at left tackle and had him block the entire game. That's why. That's literally it. He had like 3 targets in the game. It's because he wasn't running routes. It was absurd. Like, as somebody who bet on his over receiving yards in that game, I was furious. Like, he was just standing, like, I can't exaggerate this. Like, he was standing in the backfield for like half of the game.
I will say the concern that I have for McMillan's team, his quarterbacks are absolutely, like, he's got great quarterbacks. But and he's got good running backs too, more or less. I mean, I think DeAndre Swift had a down day, obviously, but Pittman and Neighbors had Puka's obviously the injury concerns, so that already hurts right there. His wide receiver core
gone for a month, like it's
his wide receiver core is now Pittman, Neighbors, Nuke, Brandon Cooks. You're starting 3 a week.
That sounds like a great team in 2021.
Yeah. Does it? Malik Neighbors sounds great in 2021 when he's in college.
I was more thinking about Nuke and
I know. I agree with you.
Brandon
Cooks has become the wide receiver 2 in Dallas. So I don't know if he's quite as low as his stock was at draft time. I think he's actually on the rise, but it might not be enough.
He's just super touchdown dependent. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like he's a 14th round pick. Like if he's going to continue to give McMillan 12 points a game, great. I think that he just as easily could not catch a touchdown. And if I'm remembering correctly, that touchdown pass, he was like, somehow the defense just completely lost him. It was like a wide open throw.
He was wide open in back.
Like, it's not always going to be that easy to get a touchdown. Like, I don't know. I have concerns about McMillan's team. If I'm remembering correctly, I did have McMillan in the bottom 3 already, so I'm starting to feel a little good about that. But
I think I might have had him top 3. I was debating between him and Alex. I didn't know who I choose. I think it might have been McMillan though.
Yeah, I think you did choose McMillan.
Well, we'll see.
But look, Cousins is going to be better. I think McMillan's. I think this is unusually low for his team as it is right now.
Well, speaking of unusually low, the lowest scorer in the league would be Alex, who is in the chat. McMillan, by the way, says, "Just give me time." But Alex, lowest scorer, and of course, who plays against the lowest scorer in the league? Well, it's none other than Zach. Who else would play the lowest scorer in the league?
I'm going to be real with you guys. As I look at his team right now, Alex, how is your team so bad? Who was your first? Okay, it was Breece Hall. Who was your second pick? Who was your third?
I think
Burrow.
Who was your fourth?
I think it was Burrow. I don't know if after that.
Maybe Tua was his third.
Jacob. I think it might have been Jacobs as his third, and then Tua the fourth, or maybe Tua was his third. Actually, I'm thinking about it. And then
it was DJ Moore. DJ Moore went the third. He went right after.
No,
Mike
it was DJ Moore was the fifth. It was Jacobs, then Tua, then Moore. But yeah, 1, 2 was Breece Hall and Joe Burrow. But it's just like, man, I don't like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Javonte Williams going into it. I think getting him in the 9th round is eventually going to work out well for Alex. But man, did Denver not look good? And
and frankly, Cincinnati, like Burrow, he's a premier quarterback. He looked bad.
His right wrist is just not. It's not there. And you would have thought the Bengals defense against the Patriots, starting Jacoby Brissett, would have worked out great. Like.
So a friend of mine in New York is a huge Bengals fan. So I watched every minute of that game live. And my God, the Bengals looked all over the place.
I mean,
It was
no
embarrassing.
no T Higgins.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase holds out. I, I'm scared for Alex, man.
The
There's
the
just like not anyone on his roster that I'm like, outside of Brees Hall, there's no one on his roster that I even think you can move. I don't think there's
Scary,
anybody
Scary Terry's not going to help him.
No, I
2.7
I
like this
disagree.
week for him.
I think Scary Terry. I don't think. Let me push back for a
Jaden
second.
Daniels had a good game, and Terry McLaurin did nothing.
I understand. Chemistry takes time. They're still working things out. Scary Terry has been a mercurial receiver, even with terrible quarterback play.
Nice use of
I
Mercurial.
agree with you 100%, Sean, and that is why it makes me so scared for him that this is what he did in week 1.
It's
No, with bottom 5 in the league quarterback play over the last 4 years, McLaurin has been amazing, and 2.7.
It's just 1 week, and I
are we not doing over week 1 overreactions?
I mean that is the theme, right? But no,
Yeah.
I here's my bigger concern. I do think Alex has enough wide receivers between his kind of wide receiver stable. He's got like 5 guys that he can start in theory, and now really 6 with Cortland Sutton after the trade. Quarterbacks Tua and Burrow have high enough floors. I mean, this is Burrow's low. I would say he's not going to do worse than this all season. I would think if the wheels fall off the Bengals, maybe. But I'm not.
So I'm just going
to
throw
look
this out
bad.
here.
I agree with you. They look bad.
I'm just going to throw this out there that last year I drafted Joe Burrow with like my first or second pick. I had the turn at 10-11. I drafted him there. He was hurt. He kept playing. He kept playing. He kept playing. He kept doing terrible, and they finally put him on injured reserve. And right now they're talking about a right wrist injury for a quarterback. If he's going to sit here and gut it out, I don't know that this is going to be his worst. I mean, it's hard to go less than 8 points as a quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But like, it wouldn't surprise me if he hasn't a couple of other like stinkers like this before they put him on injured reserve because his right fucking wrist is hurt.
I don't disagree with you, and I do think that if the wheels fall off in Cincinnati, if Burrow is in fact, dealing with a prolonged injury that diminishes his value all season, Alex is in trouble. But I also think he's in trouble for a separate reason, which is his running back core, right? Like Josh Jacobs, fine. Like I'm fine starting Josh Jacobs week in and week out. You're right. You're absolutely right about Javonte Williams. And the concern I have is who does he have at running back beyond Javonte Williams? Who, by the way, just telling you his stats. Brees Hall at the flex. Sorry. Brees Hall, Josh Jacobs. I apologize.
I mean, I don't understand why Brees Hall's in his flex. By the way, like Brees Hall.
I don't understand why I started 3 running backs this week. Javonte Williams had 8 carries and 1 catch.
I was not big on Javonte Williams. I mean, correct me if I am wrong, but I believe I mentioned it in the week 1 pod. Josh Jacobs is like the most inefficient running back. You can't even complain. He got 19 touches.
Yeah.
He had 16 carries, 3 catches.
But that's just it.
He got you 11.4. Like, he doesn't.
Literally.
It's all volumes, and if he doesn't get touchdowns, he is screwed. And he didn't get touchdowns.
To my point, Alex does not have anything. Alex said, by the way, the wrist thing is scary, but he does for Burrow. But he doesn't have anything at running back beyond Jacobs and Brees, right? So what happens on bye, right?
Well, he has Charbonnet.
No, he doesn't. Oh, yeah,
not anymore.
Well done. I fell into that one. I was like that's my point. It's like he has nothing at running back. So like, there are major concerns with Alex. Of the 2 Hagerstown teams, I am much more concerned with Alex's team than McMillan's.
That being said, though, we've talked about Alex's team a little bit. I think Zach's team overperformed what it's going to be for the average of the season. Like Marvin Harrison, I think that's a sign of things to come. And Saquon's great. He's going to be fine. He's never going to get
Saquon's not going to get you 3 fucking touchdowns or whatever it was.
Well,
no. This was Saquon's best. I would. Ooh, I've been very hesitant about slap bets.
You haven't been any. We're about to run right into one.
I'd be almost willing to make a slap bet that this is Saquon's best game of the season.
If you're willing to offer it in the chat, post it in the chat, and we'll see if Jerry takes his first slap bet of the season. Because I think you're the only person who has it. So we'd have the entire league doing slap bets this season if we get one together. I don't disagree that this might very well be Saquon's best week of the season, but I'm actually a little bit. I'm going to stop shitting on Zach's team for a while, and here's why. Shitting on Zach's team never works. It just makes them play better. I am actually legitimately scared of his team. Herbert had 10. Not saying he's going to do much better than 10. I think his ceiling is limited this year in the Chargers' run-heavy offense. But and yeah, I understand Kamara had 20, but Tyreek having 20 is not out of the ordinary. And Zach also hasn't done a slap bet. And we're talking about your team. Perfect, Zach.
Zach, slap bet me this.
Yeah, Zach, accept the slap bet. We'll have you two do it, and then everyone have done a slap bet. It's perfect.
Did Zach catch what the slap? There we go.
So
Zach doesn't know what the slap bet is. So this is Zach, the slap bet that I think
Zach's too logical to do slap bets is the problem. He realizes that he actually thinks about the positive and negative EV of if me versus him, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio on slaps.
Yeah.
It's kind of why everybody at the draft was like, "Hey Scotty, you want to slap bet?"
No, but just to be clear, Zach, what the slap bet offer is from Jerry, or the slap bet that Jerry's considering, is that Saquon Barkley will not score more than 32.2 points for the remainder of the season, in one game,
in a single game,
in an individual week, right? This will be his highest week of the season.
It's the high water mark for Saquon.
But Tyreek having 20 and is not out of the ordinary, and like you said, Harrison has much more upside than less than a point. Sam Laporta has much more upside than 6.5. Drake London has much more upside than 2.5 points. Matt Stafford, again, 15 is closer to his floor than his ceiling, obviously. So I don't think, and Rashid Shaheed, who once again I fucking wanted, puts up 14.8 to my Chris Olave's less than 3. So I am legitimately scared that Zach might have a top tier team, that this is not his ceiling, and he still put up 126.
I'm not convinced yet. I'm really not. I think Kamara had a great game script. I don't see any of the running backs he's got below in his bench. I think Zach's going to even out around 116 or so a game, and that's kind of what I expect going up against him.
Zach has came into the chat when we started talking about his team, and then went dead silent when the talk of slap bets came up.
All right, should we move on to the next matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. It's our last matchup. We're talking Jerry and Jason, and this was the only matchup that had anything going on Monday night, and man, did it turn out to be a nail biter.
Oh, yeah.
It shouldn't have been.
It absolutely shouldn't have been.
Here's the thing. I didn't pick myself to win this week. I expected Jason to win. His team did not do as well as I would have thought it would do. Evan Ingram underperformed. Amari Cooper underperformed. Amon-Ra St. Brown underperformed. And I go into this with, I have 4 players and I'm down by 37 points. And I'm like, this should be an easy win.
Not just 4 players. Yep. 2 quarterbacks.
2 quarterbacks. The number
CMC.
1 running back. 2 quarterbacks. The number 1 running back. And I don't even remember what the last one was now.
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My second. My top 2 picks to my 2 quarterbacks. It should have been an auto win. It should have been easy. And the fantasy gods just hate me. And it's hey, no, like I said, Ian Rappaport, 4 hours before the game, is Christian McCaffrey going to be dealing with about 15 to 20 touches, not too far off his average last year of 21. But we'll go. And then 90 minutes before kickoff, it's never mind. Just kidding. And then you have fucking Jordan Mason. San Francisco 49ers can't even give the decency of giving Jordan Mason a little bit of media training to say, hey, by the way, don't tell everyone we broke the fucking rules.
Yeah.
Friday night, I knew I was going to start.
His foot is so firmly in his mouth right now.
And then Kyle Shanahan's having to fucking reel it in and backtrack and be no, we didn't say that. We said he's just going to get a lot of work. And then clearly they fucking yelled at him. And then in the post-game press conference, this is why I don't answer any questions. I get fucking yelled at. I get shit on because I said the wrong thing. It's yeah, you told the truth, dumbass. Don't say the quiet part out loud. God damn it. I was so angry. And then Window just fucking teasing the shit out of me, dangling. Anyone want to trade? Hey, Jerry, you want to trade for this player? And I'm okay, how about this? And he's I'm 50-50. Let me put my baby. And then after the game starts, He's like, oh, nah, never mind. I think I'm going to stick with the healthier player. So what the fuck does that even mean, Window? Like, who are you talking about in this situation? Oh, Mike Williams is hurt. And McCaffrey. I'm just talking about 4 different guys, actually. Like, after the game had started, literally, when I got his message, I was already watching the game.
My question is, for Mason now, what do you give up for him?
Nothing. Not anymore.
Because they're saying
no. Mike Williams was the best he was ever going to get. They're not putting him on injured reserve. They said, like I said, I put in the chat. James, you're not in the chat. You don't fucking know. I already put in the chat. They said, oh, he's questionable to suit up for week 2. If he was a game time decision in week 1, there is no scenario where he shouldn't be playing in week 2. If he does not play in week 2, it like 100% confirms you knew he wasn't starting in week 1, right. And they're going to be fucked. They're going they have to be doing some type of punishment to them.
So the most recent article that I was able to find about it said that it's unlikely. He's listed as day-to-day, but it's unlikely that he suits up week 2.
Yeah, exactly. And if 4 hours before the game he was 100% going to play, and then he doesn't play a week later, the 49ers, you know what you did. You're making it now obvious, and you're going to lose a draft pick because of it.
But honestly, it's interesting that even without your... Sorry, Shippy, go ahead.
No, I just, my favorite parts of the night so far, and maybe one of my top moments in podcast history, had to be Jerry yelling, "Yeah, you told the truth, dumbass!" He said the quiet part out loud. And then just the rant on Windows, like, trolling him. Oh man, I'm just so glad.
Oh, Sean fucking asked me, do you think Windows just trolling you? And I'm like, I don't think he knows how. God damn it.
Window, keep trolling him. Keep the trolling up.
Oh my gosh. What's that line from Scrubs?
No, I should have won the game. I had to fucking throw in Kyle Juszczyk like last fucking second.
That was a smart play. That was actually a smart play.
I know it was a smart play. It's like literally I do what I'm supposed to do. And here's the thing. Brock Purdy probably had his worst game of the season. Puts up 10.34 without Christian McCaffrey in the lineup.
Yeah.
Multiple rushing touchdowns in the red zone. Could have just as easily been passing touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers probably has his worst game of the season.
And granted,
rushing touchdowns instead of passing touchdowns. And then he sits for the last game fucking drive of the game with like 6 minutes left.
Where the backup throws the garbage time
and fucking Tyrod Taylor goes right down the field, throws for 50 yards and a touchdown. And that would have been the difference. Like, it's so...
I missed that. Did they sit Rodgers because they were so far behind at that point? They were concerned about...
no, at that point they're down 32-12 and the game's over. There's 5 minutes left. They just sat him because the game was over. But also, one of the rushing touchdowns that San Francisco ended up getting, it might have ended up in a field goal. I could be mistaken on that. But like, Brandon Ayuk flat out drops a touchdown pass. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it probably wouldn't have made a difference. I ended up losing by 4.5. It would have been a touchdown pass plus whatever the yards were. It would have been real fucking close if Brandon Ayuk doesn't drop that touchdown.
Jerry, not to rub salt in the wound, but if Rodgers had been in on that last drive and threw the same pass that Taylor did, you would have won.
That's what I'm saying. If Tyrod Taylor has that drive instead of... if Aaron Rodgers has that drive instead of Tyrod Taylor, I win.
Zach made a point in the Facebook group this week that there was a proposed rule change of doing, instead of doing individual quarterbacks, doing team quarterbacks. Like basically, so in case someone gets injured, it's like you get the points that their backup would have, or benched, like in this case. So that would have given, and ironically, the 2 people who voted for it, Jerry and Jason Smith. So
honestly, we don't need to relitigate the change.
No, I'm against that rule change, but I thought it was ironic that Jason Smith was the one I think who proposed it, and it would have ended up costing him a week 1 win had it passed. The other point that I wanted to just bring up was what was said in the chat. Alex said in the chat to Jerry, if you had CMC in the flex, you have more options. That's why he put Breece there.
Sure, if I was a wheel, if I had wheels, I'd be a bicycle. Like. No, like if I knew Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to play, sure. But on Friday night, Saturday morning, everything was saying he was playing. Sunday morning, I looked at it, and Ian Rappaport reports he is 100% playing. Yeah. Like, Christian McCaffrey has said outright, I am playing this week.
Yeah.
Then there we are, Monday afternoon. We're not even talking about Sunday anymore. Beyond the time of it, Monday afternoon. Yep, he's going to get 15 to 20 touches. He's expecting his normal workload. Like, There was zero indicate. Like, I understand he had a questionable designation. There was zero chance he was not going to play, according to every source that knows anything about fantasy football.
Let's give you the silver lining here. Yes, you took a week 1 loss, right? But like, let's put a positive spin on things. You're absolutely right that your quarterbacks had both had stinkers of weeks. You lost your first round pick, the best running back in fantasy football. Pacheco looked fine. Garrett Wilson looked okay. But again, the Jets
it's always
had,
touchdown.
Jets,
It's always touchdown.
Jets also had a bad day at the offense.
Garrett Wilson looked great on that first drive. He was cooking with Rodgers.
Yeah, no, like early, it was like, okay, he got like 90% of his points in the first like 2 drives of the game. Like, he looked great early, and then
Jets
for some reason they stopped lining him up on the left side, and that's the only place that Aaron Rodgers can throw, apparently.
Jets had a bad day at the office.
The room for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why, but Jets had a bad day at the office against a very good defense. One other thing here, the best silver lining for you right now is what we talked about earlier.
No.
You have Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
And
my little Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp coffee. And now that just gets all the more sweet for you by virtue of Puka's injury. And I am dreading that because I had that slap bet with Jalen Waddle and Cooper Kupp, and now I'm playing catch up because of the stupid injury. But yeah,
Cooper Kupp, I had a feel. I mean, I said it from the start. Like, Cooper Kupp, when he was healthy last year, he had an equal target share with Puka Nacua. I expected that to be the same this year. Now the situation is reversed. Cooper Kupp's in the lineup. Puka Nacua is not. I think Cooper Kupp is
his value skyrockets.
Yeah, like, and I still think Garrett Wilson's value is on the way up. And I thought Jameson Williams was going to be good. I did not see him being that fucking good. He looked so explosive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he was.
But
once they got the ball in his hands, he was flying.
But Sun God also put up 2.6 for.
Yes, but I also don't think that's a coincidence. I think that teams are going to double him a lot, and Jameson Williams is going to get all the one-on-one coverage, and he is explosive.
I'm not worried about Jason's team at all.
Holy
I think
cow.
Jason's team is going to be good. Like, Ramondre Stevenson is a workhorse.
Here's an interesting hypothetical for you, James. I want to ask you.
I think that's Ramondre Stevenson's best game of the season. If you want to slap it on that, James.
Ooh.
You know, let me think about that one.
I'm not a believer in Ramondre Stevenson. Actually, before the season started, Jason offered me a trade, which I could have had Ramondre, and I'm not a believer in that offense. I'm not a believer in him. I don't think that he's going to do as well as he just did. I don't think the Bengals were ready for week 1.
I think he's a better running back than we thought on an offense as bad as we thought.
Couple comments in the chat that I want to get to, and then I want to see Jerry. By the way, really quick before you do, is that a slap bet for the entire league or just for James?
That was a thing for James, since he just said he was a workhorse.
Okay. Well, here's what I want to say for the chat. Scott said, I like the Kupp pick in your draft despite my back to the well comment, LOL. Window says Kupp in a redraft goes 2nd or 3rd round. Maybe you 1 round. Take it, James. The hypothetical I wanted to pose to you, James, is this. Let's say you're playing one of these two teams in the playoffs. Who would you rather face?
I'd rather face you. I think top to bottom, Jason Smith's team is slightly better than yours.
I don't know.
He's got a lot of studs there that I think are underperforming in week 1. They're going to be fine. And I had
really
Jason
quick
in my top 3, and I don't know.
I don't remember you having Jason in your top 3, actually.
Thought I did.
I think you need to go back and check the tape. I know I had Jason in my top 3. I also picked him to win this week. You had me in your top 3.
I think I had
and
you.
So, like, I don't take offense to you saying that, James. Like, I like Jason's team going into it. Outside of Ramondre Stevenson, I really liked his team. And I expected him to win this week. I didn't expect him to win in this fashion. I think he should be embarrassed to win in this fashion. If his team is better than this. Obviously, like, can we, like, the fact that he has the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy and it's not the person you think it is.
Yeah.
The guy sitting on his bench right now is the guy. And he's not, as of right now, he does not have him in his starting lineup for next week. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I haven't checked it exactly.
You start your studs, though. You start your studs. I would still start Cooper, Lamb, and Brown.
it's
Sure,
certainly
but
trade value, and who makes more trades than Jason Smith? Plus,
this is facts.
Yeah.
plus, it's not his. He might have the strongest bench in the league right now if you're doing week 1 overreactions, because not only Jaden Reed is on that bench, Jalen Warren's like fine on that bench, whatever. He had a bad day, but Khalil Shakir put up 11.7 points in Buffalo's offense, maybe building
J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins is the big one I was going to get to. J.K. Dobbins looks like the running back in a run heavy. I've said the Chargers are a run heavy offense now 3 times tonight, but they are, and J.K. Dobbins is their feature back. By the way,
the one black mark on Jason's roster though is he needs to drop Deshaun Watson.
Well, yeah, we've said this in the draft.
Jason,
He who
drop
must not be
Watson.
named, drop him. God
You
damn
know,
it.
he got
I mean, countless
sued again.
moral reasons could apply.
Could have applied. Nice How I Met Your Mother reference.
This
But,
week he
but
got
other than
sued
that,
again.
he's bad at football. He's
Yeah.
a bad player.
To be fair,
Drop
though,
him.
to be fair, he was Jason's second best quarterback this week. Thank you, Caleb Williams.
So people, I read an article speculating that the Browns might be able to get out of his contract because this conduct occurred before he signed the crazy deal that he got. So it was things that he did not disclose to the Browns that was out there. So I think it's a long stretch, but
I think you're getting too much into the legalese of it right now, James.
fair.
With 2 layers on the podcast,
also
you're in
just
trouble.
just because and somebody who deals with the federal acquisition regulation on a daily basis, yeah. So just I hate to like backtrack for 1 second to a matchup that we already did, but now that you mentioned Caleb Williams, it brought it to my attention, and I forgot it. I was going to mention this earlier.
Which match?
But the Zach Alex one, but like.
Okay.
Literally, I know somebody mentioned Marvin Harrison and how bad he did. No, we don't expect him to be that low on a week-to-week basis. But remember what we talked about last week. Marvin Harrison Jr. was drafted when? As the, like, if I'm remembering correctly, it was something as like the 7th or 8th wide receiver. I don't remember exactly.
He was the 302, so he was the...
I think he was like the 8th wide receiver.
22nd overall.
8th wide receiver.
8th wide receiver. Puka Nacua broke every record imaginable for rookie wide receivers last year and finished as like 5 or 6. Like, you had to know, like, best case scenario, he might crack the top 10. And this week, look what he does. And it's hard to like get into the top 10 when you start with that kind of a week. Like, and you don't draft him there unless you're hoping that he ends up as a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Preach.
You don't draft him as wide receiver 8 unless you're expecting him to finish somewhere in that 5, 6, 7 range. Like, obviously you wanted him to overperform.
This is some of the luck of fantasy, though, because if I'm going to have a guy that shits the bed, I want him to shit the bed the weeks that I win anyways. You know, so Zach, I think, is lucky on that.
No, Zach's a box. We know that.
He is a luck box, but this is why we both had him in the bottom 2, because that Marvin Harrison pick made no sense. Or we both had him in the bottom 3. Sorry, Jerry and I did.
All right, should we move to transactions?
Yeah, so let's go to our waiver wire, and then we'll go to the trade. The top bid window did in fact drop Will Levis and added Sam Darnold, who was not seeing ghosts in his week 1 matchup.
Yeah,
against the worst team in
115.
football.
Yeah. So, but a 115 bid on Sam Darnold.
Which I think was, did anybody else put a bid on Sam
No,
Darnold?
you could have had him for free.
Yeah.
I don't think I bid on anybody this week.
Now, the second
Like,
highest bid...
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what to bid, but like I'm also pretty good about not throwing the kitchen sink at people. But like, it's Sam Darnold. Like, you know that he played the Giants, right?
Interestingly, like the 2 guys who had multiple bids were Likely and Lazard. Everyone else could have been gotten for free.
I probably overbid on Likely, which obviously it wasn't by that much.
Not by that much.
Alex bid
$14.
86. I originally had put 50, and then I was kind of like, I don't know how much I believe in Kyle Pitts. This is not the first time I've had him.
Yeah.
He scored a touchdown, and that
fine.
helps. But it's like I said, touchdown dependency is just so bad. Like, even without the touchdown that Isaiah Likely scored, he still gives you 15.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so concerned with Mark Andrews. Like, he just did not get the targets that Isaiah Likely had. And Isaiah Likely is not some like new player that had never been there before. Like, he's been on this team for a few years now.
Windows said I should not have bid. Womp, did you see my QBs?
Sure, but you could get Sam Darnold
But this is
tomorrow.
part of it. Oh,
Obviously.
Alex, here's something funny for you, Jerry. Alex put 112, then thought he could get likely cheaper, and clearly he said clearly I thought wrong. Uh,
People were putting like 50% of their budget to get likely, is what Andrew just said. Who would put 50% of their budget to do that?
that's crazy. I could see maybe if you're desperately in need of a tight end, you believe is
Oh,
the answer. Maybe
also,
20% of your budget at most.
I'm just saying, if any of those people are looking to play like a $10,000 league, let me know. I can make one now.
um, so obviously, the other acquisitions, you got Jerry, you got likely, Scotty made 3 acquisitions: Lazard, Justice Hill, and the Chargers D, and then you got for free the Jags D.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to be putting money on a
While,
defense, and
while
obviously,
we're talking, I want Alex to write in the chat why he picked up the Commanders D. I'm very curious about that. But in any event,
because
sorry.
obviously they did so good.
And then we did have our first trade of the season. And like I said, unless anyone tells me otherwise, I do believe this is the earliest trade in league history. Window getting Charbonnet, Alex getting Cortland Sutton. Window pointed this out to me in the Facebook group that these guys were actually drafted back to back. Charbonnet drafted 113th, Cortland Sutton drafted 114th. So a very interesting trade, and I think that's probably part of the reason why they both traded them, because they're both kind of in the same range of player. Scotty, thank you. Scotty said, "What a graphic" in the chat. I mean, I worked hard on this. Not really hard, but
Scotty, stop being a bootlicker.
Window, very good graphic. Thanks, guys. I mean, look, listen. The podcast has come up in production value since we started it. When we hit our 50th episode, man, chef's kiss. So, which is, by the way, 2 weeks away from 50 episodes. I've been talking about this nonstop, but we're going to be syndicated. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the trade? I mean, it's kind of like both flyers at this point, right?
No, I think Window getting Charbonnet was a big move because Walker, Seattle always leans on their running back, and so if Walker doesn't start, Charbonnet's going to have so much value. I don't think he gave up too much for it at all. I think that was a great trade for Window, and it kind of makes sense for Alex too. This is legitimately even trade because Cortland's got some potential there.
I love Zach. Zach, when are we hiring a podcast intern? Oh man, no, yeah, I see both these guys as kind of flyers. I think
it's a mistake for both.
Honestly, if I had to pick a winner, I'd probably pick Alex because I actually like Cortland Sutton. I think he'll develop more chemistry with Bo Nix as the season progresses. I think Bo Nix will be behind in a lot of games. Again, I think there's a garbage time touchdown potential, or garbage time potential for Cortland Sutton, whereas Charbonnet is still a handcuff.
Yeah, but he's a very valuable handcuff, though. Like, again, Kenneth Walker, he went down last season for a little bit. Whoever is the running back in Seattle is a workhorse, and they get value.
Last thing I'll say about the trade before we move on to predictions. Alex said in the chat, "I hated the Charbonnet pick from the moment I made it. I was tilted after both my guys went right before me," which would have been, let's see, Geno Smith and Deshaun Watson? Or are you thinking about Chase Brown and Jerome Ford went a little bit before that? I would hope you're not thinking of Deshaun Watson and Geno Smith. I would hope you're thinking of Chase Brown and Jerome Ford. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I think it's bad for both of them. I think neither one of them, it doesn't make sense on either side of it. Like, I get that Window gets his handcuff, but like, Cortland Sutton, you'd like to think there's upside at being the number one guy in Denver, but I don't trust Bo Nix, so I don't think Alex is actually getting a ton here. And also, if Kenneth Walker gets hurt, you now gave up what would be a starting running back for X number of weeks. Like
Alex, no. Alex just confirmed in the chat it was Watson and Geno. He wanted a QB there. He was thinking about Deshaun Watson. No, Alex. Guys, can we have an intervention? Also, Window being a dick. He says the one without his handcuff.
Yeah, frankly,
Just
Windows
twisting the knife.
don't listen to these guys. The Seattle handcuff is valuable. I think that's a good move.
All right.
All
Let's
right.
get to predictions.
Matchups?
I don't believe in trading a number one wide receiver for a handcuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Sue me.
Again,
But don't get me wrong. I'm not high on Cortland Sutton. Don't get me wrong. Like Window probably actually wins this trade because he gets his handcuff in exchange for for the number one wide receiver on a team. But you still traded away the number one wide receiver on a team for a handcuff. Like I don't think there's any winners in this.
Yeah, I mean it depends. I mean, obviously, if one of them blows up, there's a winner. But right now, I would say it's kind of a wash.
That's fair. That's fair. All right.
So
our predictions.
Our first prediction, our first matchup. And I apologize if I guess I'll double check these in real time, but I took these screen captures earlier today, so if anything's changed, I apologize.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that people still haven't set their lineup, even though we're doing it on the appropriate night, so I'm annoyed.
Well, again, we can only go off of, and we can kind of prognosticate what we think the lineup should be.
We can.
But,
yeah.
But no, I'm trying to look at them live in real time as well. My matchup with Scott projects him as kind of a 4-point and change winner. It's actually the projection is 134.7 to 139 now. But interesting matchup. I mean, I think this has potentially to be one of the closest matchups of the week.
I think so as well. You look at each side of this and see one position where I can say, oh, clearly you've got the advantage here.
If I had to pick a team, which I do, I'm going to say Scotty, and I hate myself for it. But the reason why is because I do think overall a lot of the positions are more or less a wash, with the exception of a few. I think Jamar Chase, if he does Jamar Chase things, is a difference maker at wide receiver. And I think Jaden Daniels actually might be better than Dak Prescott from a fantasy perspective this year.
So Olave and Chase are both playing defenses that have fairly good secondaries, and they both play defenses that had fairly shit secondaries the first week. Olave, he ate on that. Chase didn't. I don't know if there's a huge advantage there, aside from draft number.
Well, this begs my question. Who do you both have? Because like I said, I got Scotty.
I probably still have Scotty as well, on the strength of those two quarterbacks, Ford and Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
I did my prep ahead of time, and I already have all my picks for this week. So
well done. Well done.
I can say with absolute confidence that I have Scotty this week. I know I picked against you last week. I know I picked against you last week, Sean.
So you were going to do it again.
Just for the purposes of this, just to keep track of the records. I went 3-2 last week. You went 4-1. But I had picked Scott this week.
I love it. Okay, give it up in the chat for Jerry doing the homework, not only having his picks ready, not doing them on the fly, like I do because I'm a schlub, but also
me as well, yeah.
Going back and finding out how we did on our predictions. Well fucking done, lad. So this is a sweep though for Scotty amongst the consensus.
3-0.
Let's go to matchup number 2. We've got Brad taking on McMillan.
Let's see here.
Well, Jerry, since you're so prepared, why don't you go ahead and give us some time to improv this shit?
So,
McMillan, really quick, the answer is McMillan asked, when will you be prepared, Sean? The answer is I won't. I have a fucking kid.
So who does Brad put in?
The problem with that, this is exactly what James is about to say. This is the problem. Last week, we did the pod a day early. Brad was in the chat. I talked about, hey, why doesn't everybody just set their lineup? And I got you did it a day early. It's not our fault. We are doing it at the exact time that we said we would do it. And Brad is currently starting one person who is officially out and another person who is doubtful.
But we can kind of fill.
No, we can, but we shouldn't have to. This is the principle of it. Set your lineups, particularly before Wednesday night. It's not that big of a deal, guys. Like, it takes 30 seconds to just put in the person who's projected the most for all I fucking care.
You guys are better men than I, because I don't set my lineup until like Thursday morning, Thursday evening. Even.
But here's the thing: when you know that there are people who are doing this, how about you just do the bare minimum so that we can actually try to make a guesstimate?
Or I guess when it's obvious, like Jordan Love, he's not playing. So
Jordan Love's not playing. Go ahead and throw Bryce Young in there. Throw your shitty backup quarterback that you don't want to start in there, and we can move on with our lives.
So
I know McMillan lost to me. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just gonna say, just for context, I'm trying to do the math on the fly. Bryce Young 14.6 and Brandon Ayuk 11.8 makes total of 26.4. And you add that to the 98.1 he's projected for, that's what, 24,
like 124,
like 124 point whatever it was 5.
It's like 124.
So it's a narrow, close projection, favoring Brad by about 2 points, just so we're clear on what it is.
Yeah.
That being said, I've still got McMillan in this one. I know I beat him last week. I think Mark Andrews is going to have a comeback game. Brandon Cooks, again, I think he's going to feast versus New Orleans. I think his second-tier players are going to be a lot better for him this week than they were last week. I got McMillan by like 10.
I hard disagree. And the reason why is I did subtract that, Zach, actually. So I'm looking at also the live projections right now, and it has Mostert at 0, and that's where the 98.1 comes from. So I did factor in the 9.4 being out for Mostert. This screenshot is a little bit old, but I think my prediction of McMillan as a top 3 team. That
screenshot's old.
The one I have up on the pod right now, it
still has Raheem Mostert. Okay, go ahead.
Had 9.4, and now if you go to the league page, it has him at 0. You're good. So my prediction of McMillan as a top 3 team was contingent on Puka being part of that roster. His loss hurts badly, and I think the flip side is Brad isn't hurt by the Mostert injury. He's hurt by the Jordan Love injury, but Bryce Young will offset it somewhat. But the Mostert injury is offset by Achane. I think this is the title of this episode. The best ability is availability. And
yeah, that's what we almost got in a fight about in New York.
In New York, we were taking
that Brad and Jason love to bring up 4 years later.
No, but listen, we were just being New Yorkers, right? That's what they do.
Exactly. Aggression's a sign of respect.
No.
Dude, how about you go fuck yourself?
Hey, fuck you too.
Forget about it.
I have Brad for the simple reason that I think the injury issues hurt McMillan more than they hurt Brad, even with the Love injury.
Fuck Brad. Set his lineup. I picked McMillan.
Hell yeah.
Was that the preparation for that matchup?
I had already picked McMillan, but now I'm even more mad looking at the fact that he hasn't set his lineup still. When I was doing the prep, I was like, he still has time to set his lineup before the pod starts. No, he still didn't do it.
I hope everybody else set their lineup for our sake.
It's just the matchups, too. Like, I think C.J. Stroud versus Chicago, the Ravens D having Las Vegas. I think he's just got good matchups. Malik Neighbors against Washington. That's, if he's ever going to score touchdowns, it's going to be against Washington. Sorry, Alex.
McMillan loves James and Jerry right now in the chat. All right, moving on to our third matchup of the week. Andrew and Alex trying to avoid an 0-2 start. Both of them need this win, I think, to regain some confidence.
So, my pick's Andrew.
Why?
Same reason as before. It's the matchups. Mahomes has got Cincinnati, and the quarterback last week the Patriots quarterback against Cincinnati last week had a fine game. Derrick Henry against Las Vegas. Travis Etienne versus Cleveland. He's just got good matchups, and it's close enough right now that even if Kenneth Walker goes down, he has to put Charbonnet in. I think Jordan Mason starts in San Francisco. Sorry, Jerry, but I think that's happening. Yeah, I got Andrew.
So I don't think that Jordan Mason is going to start. I do think that Christian McCaffrey is going to start because again, if he doesn't, the optics still just get so bad for the 49ers if he doesn't.
I need to let you know something in the chat if you're following. Window has said if Kenneth Walker is healthy, he will play Walker over Darnold. Just if that affects your prognostication at all. But and by the way, proving my point yet again on that slap bet I made. I may have lost it, but I was in the ballpark. So go ahead, Jerry. I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to make sure you knew about that. The Walker might play instead of Darnold if healthy.
Walker might play instead of Darnold.
Windows said if Walker's healthy, he's going over Darnold.
Oh, okay. So no, I had before that. God, I might have to change my decision if that's the case. But I had picked Window. I think that Alex's team is just in trouble. Like I talked about it earlier, I'm very concerned about top to bottom his roster. I don't believe Joe Burrow is going to put up his projection of 18.2. Anybody wants to slap bet on that, particularly Sean, if whether or not Joe Burrow puts up above or below his projection this week.
Me, I have 4 slap bets. I don't
give a fuck.
I have hit my quota.
If there's like a lesser version of a slap bet, I would take that slap bet. But to me, a slap bet's a big deal. I would bet something that Joe Burrow underperforms his projection this week, but not a slap.
Yeah, I have concerns about Alex's team, and looking at this week, they don't get any better. I'm very concerned for his team. If there's any team that I am pressing the panic button on this, like after a week 1 overreaction, it is Alex's team.
So I get it.
So I'm going with Window. It bit me in the ass last week. He's one of my 2 losses from last week, but I am taking Window to win this week.
I get it, but I am picking Alex, and I had Alex as potentially close. I had him as basically my 4th best team in the league this in the preseason pod, whatever it is, the post draft pod. I had Window in my bottom 3. I got to stick to my guns here, but I do think there are signs for concern in both of these teams, but also Windows. Mahomes, I had him all last year. He has those kind of weeks. Yeah, he has weeks where he puts up 25, 26. He has the weeks where he puts up 14, and you can't afford that when you don't have a true second quarterback that can do anything for you. Like, if you're going to be starting a running back at the super flex. Henry, he got touches, but he got 1 tutty and didn't do anything after that first drive in Kansas City. Honestly, like, you look his roster up and down, every one of Windows players also has their own question marks. I thought ETN looked fine, but he did have that fumble. Does that shake his confidence at all? Devontae Adams plays for the Raiders. Deebo Samuel, target competition in San Francisco. There's all where
Deebo did all right.
He did fine, but there's always, you never know if Brandon Ayuk's going to get the lion's share of the targets that week, and if Kittle's going to get some, and then how many targets is Deebo getting? Xavier Worthy, is he going to put up 18 points a week? Probably not.
Probably not, no.
So, there are causes for concern on both of these teams, and I think there's reasons for upside for Alex. Tua's in a primetime game, and by the way, who has the most passing yards after week 1 in the NFL? Tua Tagovailoa. Breece Hall is absolutely great and will put up numbers. Christian Kirk and Terry McLaurin can rebound. I think there's a lot of reasons that Alex could be all right. I'm going with Alex. Also, the Commanders' defense gets to play against the Giants.
Yeah, but it's the Commanders' defense.
Against the Giants. Did you see Daniel Jones?
The unstoppable force meets a movable object.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. The opposite of that.
Yeah.
Week 4 the 4th matchup. This is beautiful because it's you two. This is such a let me just say something. When I started this preparation for this week's pod, I at first thought the co-hosts were going to be, I think it was Brad and Jason Smith, both of whom couldn't make it. James expressed interest in coming on. I was going to have 4 hosts at one point. James expressed interest in coming on. Then, having 2 hosts, talk to Jerry. Jerry, being the great guy that he is, comes on. And now the 2 of you have a matchup, and we get to talk about it. It just, fate is so wonderful sometimes.
Yeah, I got me.
Oh, off the bat.
Sorry, Jared, but look, you have the
You
advantage
keep
on Purdy.
apologizing for things, and
You have the advantage on Purdy versus Goff, but the positions going south of there, I've got you, I think, through. I don't think there's a single position apart from QB1 that you got the advantage on.
How about Cooper Kupp, bud?
Yeah, again, Mike Evans, high scoring game. I'm not particularly worried about it.
you
James,
want
on
to
this,
slap bet on whether or not Cooper Kupp or Mike Evans does better?
Well, I love me some Mike Evans.
he won a slap bet last season on Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Like, I was going to pick you, but the fact that you're like just throwing out absolute nonsense for your analysis makes me want to slap bet.
I'll take it. Mike Evans,
Ah!
Cooper Kupp.
Mike
Yeah, I'll
Evans
take
and
that.
Cooper Kupp this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take that.
A gentleman's agreement.
Huzzah!
So it's amazing. We
It's
have a
insane,
podcast slap bet. Again, don't you love how fate works out? Like, I love it. Oh man. So
Mike Evans, if he does well this season, I'm gonna be slapping everybody. Or if he dies, I'm gonna be slapped so many times. All my bets are Mike Evans.
So as I looked at this line, at this matchup in the lines, I had picked you. I think a big part of this is if Christian McCaffrey doesn't play,
Yeah, that's tough.
like it's easy. It's an easy decision. If he does play, I think it's a lot closer. But I had picked you in my pre-pod analysis because I don't love that I'm starting Zach Moss. I do love Garrett Wilson. I do love Cooper Kupp. I think Keenan Allen's going to have a little bit of a bounce back. He had a down week. I don't know. I don't expect Jameson Williams to go as big as he did. And right now, my quarterbacks are just question marks, and it's frustrating because I've done both strategies. I've done all three strategies you can possibly go with. First year, we did two quarterbacks. I punted on quarterbacks until the very end. It bit me in the ass. Last year, I went quarterback early. It bit me in the ass. This year, I kind of went in the middle rounds. It's looking like it's going to bite me in the fucking ass. Like I cannot get quarterback production.
So I think you're gonna have a good sense of where Rodgers is after this week, though, because Tennessee's not a particularly strong defense as far as
they're not, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers did bad.
No.
It's just he had
yes, he did.
he didn't do. I mean, don't get me wrong. 8.6 isn't good, but I'm saying like looking at how he actually played. It's like, no, he like that touchdown that he had to Allen Lazard where he like got the defense to jump offside, like that's like vintage Aaron Rodgers, and that's what you're hoping for. He had a bad I don't even want to say bad. Like it was like Garrett Wilson didn't attack the ball and it was deflected and they get an interception.
The 49ers are a top 5 defense in the NFL East.
Yeah, no, like there was things working against Aaron Rodgers this week that he did not have a good week. And again, he could have gone right down the field just like Tyrod Taylor did in the last possession, and he could have ended up with 14 points. Like if he has 14 versus 8.5, it's a completely different conversation. Like 14's like, no, you had a bad day. 8.5 is terrible.
So
I don't know where to go exactly on that, but like so as of right now, I'm saying I would pick James. If Christian McCaffrey plays, I think it's a lot closer. But my prediction for this week is James.
I agree with that. If C-Mac plays, I think it's a different ballgame. So I think Purdy also improves from that too. So
they scored 30 points and they didn't have. Like, did they have a passing touchdown? I don't think they did. I don't think Brock Purdy had correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think they did.
Pretty sure they scored 30-something points. Without Christian McCaffrey, they scored 30-something points and they didn't have a passing touchdown. How the fuck does that even happen?
Actually, yeah, you're right. No passing touchdown,
like
231 yards.
Pretty wild to score that many without your number one running back and still not have any passing touchdowns. Again, Brandon Ayuk flat out dropped a touchdown pass. Shit happens.
Sean, who you got?
So, I'm glad you asked. One of the things that I wanted to just point out was, like, yes, you're absolutely right that your quarterbacks could rebound. It's also possible that James's quarterbacks could regress. Baker Mayfield is not going to put up 29.7 points this week.
But I also would expect Jared Goff to put up more than 11.5. So
sure, so it balances out. But like, Jared Goff does have his bad weeks. Bijan and Pacheco, you favor Bijan, but like it's not far off. Like I think they're going to be fairly close. David Montgomery and Zach Moss, obviously you favor Montgomery, but again, they're both starting running backs. Like it's not. I don't think the margins on James's where James has the better player are that high. And I think Cooper Kupp is going to offset a lot of that. I think Cooper Kupp over Mike Evans when Puka's not playing is a no-brainer. Not to mention the fact that, like, Kelsey wasn't really utilized. He had half of what Kyle Pitts had. I know we said touchdowns are king, but, like, is that a harbinger of things to come? I have concerns with, and I understand that the players that James started put up essentially 144 last week, and the players that Jerry started last week put up 120. I get it. I get the argument for James this week, but I am going to go Jerry because I think James is much like we talked about. Oh, this person's not as bad as their score indicates. James, I'm sorry. I don't think you're a 132 in average team per week. And I think this will be a comeback down to earth week. And
all right.
Who doesn't love parody?
Me. I just like winning every week.
Our last matchup, Zach and Jason Smith. Projections razor thin, 1.1 points in favor of Zach. I'll start. I'm predicting Zach because once again, if I had to redo my top three, I might move Zach from my bottom three to my top three. Like, I just feel like his team is scarier than I thought it would be. I take back what I said. I've learned my lesson. I'm not betting against Zach for a while because he's a luck box. And then, the only way to counter this is to just start predicting him to win. So, I'm going Zach.
Jerry?
So this is the one I was probably the most split on this week. It's like I picked Jason to be in the top three. I did not pick Zach to be in the top three. I understand how close it is. There are pieces that worked out really well for Zach in week one, and I get that he's a box. But, like, Tyreek Hill put up 22, and he got 15 of that on one play. Like, you can't expect that every week. I already have talked about how I was willing to throw out a slap bet that Saquon Barkley's best week of the year was week one. I don't think Justin Herbert, I think they want to run the ball. I don't have a ton of faith there. I'm not a believer in Zay Flowers. I'm not a believer in Drake London. I don't love his bench. Again, he literally just benched. I mean, he used, a third-round pick on Marvin Harrison Jr., and Marvin Harrison Jr. is sitting on his bench right now. There are things to not like about Zach's team. I know, like, I'm I always shit on Zach's team. I always have negative things to say. I think that Zach had a lot of good fortune in week one. I think that Jason comes out and he wins week two. I think Jason's team, top to bottom, is one of the best in the league. I think that he is going to win this week.
For the record, I also had, I'm pretty sure, Jason top three and Zach bottom three. I think we both agreed on that.
I don't think you had Jason top three. I remember you describing Jason's team and then you started describing my team. Or you said Jason's team and then you just started describing mine. So I don't think you did, but I don't remember for sure. I can go back and watch it.
I know I picked McMillan and I know I picked you. I don't know who my third was, but I thought it might have been Jason Smith.
I've got Jason as well. Mainly, again, on those wide receivers. Two of them let him down last week, but they're just so good. I think Tampa Bay, Detroit window, I think that is going to be a shootout. Same thing with Arizona and Los Angeles. The Cowboys D, I think he's going to be fine against New Orleans. He's got good matchups, and those are, I think, better players across the board than Tyreek. And Saquon, who, Saquon's going to be fine. Tyreek's got a tough matchup. When it comes out of those two positions, yeah, I think Jason's got it.
There you go. And with that, we conclude episode 2 of the season 16 pod.
All right.
Like I said in the Facebook group that I do want everyone to mark their calendars if they could for the 25th, to get everyone who wants to be on the pod to get them on. I'll have, if anyone wants to come over to my house, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll have 10 boxes on the screen if I need to. But I like the 50th episode to be a celebration of all of you guys to have the banter not just in the chat, but on the pod. And I will do my best to prepare. I know having a lot of people on the podcast, I mean, even having just the three of us tonight, it can be difficult to make sure we're not talking over each other and that sort of thing. So I'll do my best to kind of, my vision for it is have everyone talk about their own matchup. Anyone who's there, talk about their own matchup and assign that to everybody. And then same thing for predictions. For waivers, basically you talk about your team is what I envision for that. And I will tell you, and I need to work on it, but I do have one or two surprises for you for this 50th episode. Daddy's starting to work on some content that I think you'll like. So I just want to say thank you to McMillan, Window, Scotty, Alex, Zach, all of you guys for joining the chat. Thank you, Jerry and James, for being on the show. I'm excited for week 2.
Also, really quick, just to throw this out here before we get off, I know we talked about it last week briefly. James didn't watch this part of the pod, so fuck him. We're going to get some polls out for league events. Week 1, obviously not the best week for it. Apparently, I told Scott that I'd watch football with him, and I'm a liar. But going to get some polls out, do a Frederica one, do a Nova one. I still am on board to do like an MGM, go to the sports book. And this is the part that James missed last week. James, let us know when a good week is to come to New York. We'll get a group. We'll come up. We just need to know what weekend so we can plan it ahead. Try to get as many people. If we needed to make the drive or if we could do flights, I'm good either way, but I would like to get as many people as possible. Ideally, we do like a Saturday to Monday scenario, so if people could take off work, that way we don't have to like leave in the middle of the 4 o'clock games or something.
So October 26th, like the Halloween, before Halloween weekend,
through
the Thanksgiving break. All those are clear.
Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, my computer isn't allowing me to click open a calendar right now. So can we tentatively plan for like the 16th, 17th weekend of November?
Yes, we can. We'll put a poll out, but yeah, that should work.
Let's put a doodle poll out, but that we can like kind of like can think about that weekend. And
we can get like an Airbnb. We can do a hotel. We'll figure it out. I think James, when we read the draft, you mentioned you might get a couple of people.
In fairness, my man is getting married in 10 days, so
who's getting married in 10 days?
I think the marriage that my team is having to victory is going to be in about 5 days. At least I think that's what Sean's referring to. You got the dates wrong.
I thought you said 9/21.
It is. It's
see, I knew it.
I don't think so. I don't see any fucking invites come out. So
we're not. It's not. They're.
It's just immediate family.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Well, we can celebrate in New York with the next league event.
How am I supposed to send you a gift if I don't fucking get any?
We'll bring his gifts to the league event and buy him a round of drinks to celebrate his nuptials.
Yeah. Get the newly married guy fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
This will be your bachelor party. It'll be great.
It sounds like you already. Oh my god!
I just had the best idea.
What?
Guys, we're gonna go to the worst strip club in New York City. Samantha and I tried to go there. It was terrible.
Let's go to Staten Island. The strip club out there. Hey, you guys, you want to come to New York? Yeah, great. Let's go to fucking Staten Island.
Why? Jerry LeBlanc, I trusted you.
Why?
All right. Hey.
All right. Night, guys.
Good luck in your week 2 matchups. See you next week for episode 49.
So anyways, can we get back to Dune?